basketball fans, for some reason, literally don't know what they want. Like, literally. Have a low scoring game. Oh, why am I watching this? It's trash. Like, these guys can't play, whatever. Have a high scoring game. Oh, these guys aren't playing any defense. They're shooting too many threes. What do you want? I just want to know. Like, this is the notebook. Me, I am channeling my inner notebook. Tell me what you want.
Welcome. This is the first episode, the first installment of the Corner 3 podcast. We like to start off every episode with a little fun fact. 95% of corner threes are assisted compared to 78% of above the break threes. The Corner 3 pod, Jared, Rush, your boy Tone, fellas, how y'all doing?
I'm good. That's a hell of a step to start the podcast with. I wasn't ready for it. I thought we were just gonna do pleasantries, but you're going right into trivia, and I'm ready. Tone locked in, Jared. So I'm trying to match his energy.
He's
I'm
locked
ready.
in. We got to match the energy right now. But I'm ready.
All right, man. So for those that watching this new episode, this is the format. We're gonna give you 4 quarters. We're gonna give you the basketball news of the week, and it's not just NBA. So we'll touch on college basketball, men's, women's, WNBA when that starts back up. Everything basketball related. We're gonna start off every episode with that. Based off of the news, my fellow co-host might decide to comment on the news. If not, we go on to the quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and that is your show. As y'all saw in the promo, no hot takes type of conversations, authentic basketball discussions, fresh takes, fresh input, fresh views on everything basketball. This is the podcast, Basketball Junkies. Y'all going to love this. Starting off with the news of the week. Number 3, Notre Dame defeated number 17, UNC Tar Heel 76-56. That takes them to 12-2. Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles combined for 43 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds, and they had 5 threes apiece. Number 4, USC beat Rutgers 92-42 by 50 piece. No Keomi Miller. Rutgers coach Washington said it would be handled internally. For those that don't know what's going on, she did just post Keomi hinting that she might be transferring. So that's something that we probably gonna have to be looking out for, that we might talk about at some point.
Hey, Jared. Didn't we know somebody at that game who went to the USC Rutgers game? Don't we know someone who was like in attendance or like for their first, I don't know, press credential? I don't know. I'm kind of fuzzy, but I feel like
We
I
do
know
know
somebody
somebody.
who was there. Who?
We do
Oh,
know somebody.
You were there, right? You didn't come in the game, right?
Yes, sir. I was there. My first media credentialed game. Very great experience. Met a couple great people. Shout out again for those. I've said it before months ago on Threads. Shout out to Jared. Shout out to the Threads community in general, NBA Threads. Jared has been one of the main people that helped me be able to do it. As y'all seen, Jared been at Dagnare every game, so he knew. He gave me the info. He was the plug on how to get a media credential. It worked out. Appreciate y'all for showing love. Paige Beckers had to leave early due to a knee injury. She injured the same knee that she had the ACL surgery on. More recent news that happened literally 10 minutes before we started tonight's episode, which for those that end up watching this, listen to it later, January 6th, 7:30, we have started this episode. Coco Golf has joined Unrivaled as a investor for the basketball league, which will be starting January 17th. We'll be talking about Unrivaled once it starts. Top 3 wins and loss streaks in the NBA. The Thunder currently on a 15-game winning streak. Kings 10-game winning streak. No, not the Kings. The Cavs on a 10-game winning streak, and the Kings are on a 4-game winning streak since the firing of Mike Brown, which is always interesting to see. Once the coach gets fired, they go on a winning streak.
They actually lost to the Lakers first. I just want to point that out.
Yes.
When they started winning, they lost to the Lakers first.
The Hornets are on a 10-game losing streak. The Suns are on a 4-game losing streak, and the Mavs are on currently a 4-game losing streak as well. Kawhi Leonard came back. We saw Kawhi Leonard back in the lineup Saturday against the Hawks. He was plus 22 in his 19 minutes, 3 of 5 from the three. And the last piece of news that we have that came out today, Chris Haynes reported that Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic will be removed from the starting lineup, with rookie Ryan Dunn and Mason Plumlee starting in their place. And after that, that came out, John Garbadero from the Phoenix 98.7 FM said that Bill is willing to waive his no trade clause for teams such as Lakers, Clippers, Heat, or Nuggets. Now, I know Jared had some input on that, and I know Rush said, "Hey, Palinka, need to get on the phone." Fellas, what was y'all take on the benching of Bill and possibly what's coming next?
Go ahead, Rush. You start.
Yeah, well, just a small correction. I told Blinken to hang the phone up because I don't. He needs to send the call to voicemail. I don't. I'm not. I love Bradley Beal. Excuse me, Bradley Beal. I don't think he fits with the Lakers. I think there's a little redundancy with him and Austin Reeves. And I think Max Christie is playing well. And anytime you talk about bringing in somebody, excuse me, at the salary size of Beal, you got to send multiple pieces out. So with the team that's playing pretty well in the last handful of games, just really don't. I don't think that if you're going to make a move, I don't think that's the one to make the Lakers. But I think it's just as competitive as the West is. The Suns aren't out of it by a long shot. I think they're a game or two under 500 at this point, maybe three. You know, 3 games. Okay, thank you. You got to try to mix it up a little bit. And I think you have enough of a sample size with Beal and Nurkic in the lineup to see whether or not it's working. And clearly, it's not working according to Bud. So Ryan Dunn's been phenomenal. I think from a defensive standpoint, he's already locked and loaded and ready to go. He's already I feel like he might get some consideration for an all defensive team. Probably not as a rookie, but I think I wouldn't be shocked if he did. When you talk about defending at a wing spot and blocking shots relatively well for a guard too. Mason Plumlee is just he's had a sustained career of being a really solid big, whether he's giving you spot minutes as a starter or coming in to spell your starter as a center. So we'll see. This will probably give Brad an opportunity to be featured a little bit more off the bench, and maybe put him back in familiar territory in terms of being ball dominant, like when he was in Washington, because he definitely will be the firepower off the bench. So it's always interesting to see how guys who have been stars and starters for their entire career react to being moved to the bench later on. As they get a little long in the tooth. So, but that's why you pay head coaches and coaching staffs big bucks, right? To handle the messaging and hopefully get the buy-in. So we'll see. But if he ends up being moved, I know there's a lot of noise around Beal and a Jimmy swap. Maybe this is a precursor to that happening. So not really surprising. You figure the Suns had to do something, but it is what it is.
Jared, what was your take on it? I saw you was on Threads all today talking about Bill and the benching and everything. What's your input on it?
So for me, I think Bradley Beal's one of the better players in the league. I didn't like the idea of him going to Phoenix because of the situation where having Book and KD, two ball dominant players. And for Beal, he's always best playing off the ball with a dominant point guard. So when they got him and they put him at point guard, I was the person to say, not a good idea. Beal's clearly not a point guard. I watched him in Washington basically as the primary ball handler and struggle in crunch time situations, getting turnovers and things like that. I felt like he would have been better if he would have went to say like the Clippers before they got James Harden or something like that. Um, but I think it's a good move for the Suns. I feel like they need to shake things up. They need to. They don't really have a lot of firepower off the bench except for Grayson Allen. So making that move, hopefully it will help them. Maybe they'll trade for Jimmy Butler, but we'll see. I don't think Jimmy Butler solves their problems either, though. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's we're gonna be locked in to see what happens regarding that and what Rush was saying. Like it's always interesting to see how players that once were number one option stars, how they react to it. Shout out to Bud. You don't often see sometimes in this star heavy league, coaches making that hard decision of saying, I gotta bench you and standing on it. Now,
Yeah.
it is believed that and rumored Jimmy for Bill. With that being the case, I know my man Jared has some viewpoints on it. A lot of people have some viewpoints on it, especially in NBA threads. Shout out to y'all again. Regarding Jimmy Butler, he don't have no more joy. The joy is not there playing basketball anymore. Drake said, if I ain't having fun with it, I don't want to do it no more. He wants out. Pat Riley has said, oh no, we're not trading him. Now the trade is happening. He's been suspended for 7 games. Has Pat Riley actually been the issue since they won that championship? Is Pat Riley the one that's fumbling the bag?
Yes, he's definitely the one fumbling the bag. Let me tell you why. When they won the championships with D Wade, LeBron, and Bosh, for some odd reason, I don't know why, it never really came out about why, but LeBron left. Don't really know why, but it definitely showed that it was something to do with Pat Riley and LeBron's dynamic. Then, you still have a somewhat competitive team with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, you added Joe Johnson, you added Goran Dragic, Hassan Whiteside, but ultimately you decide not to pay your greatest franchise player ever, who brought you 3 championships. You decide not to pay him. To me, that was crazy. It's like, out of all people, Dwayne Wade, Heat Nation, he decides to leave, then he ultimately comes back. And I'm not saying Jimmy Butler should get the same treatment, but you didn't give Jimmy a lot to work with in his time there. A lot of people say he's one of the best ceiling raisers in the league. He has a he hasn't had a lot of talent to play with Miami. A lot of undrafted players. To me, Bam hasn't taken that next step as the second option. Tyler Hero's been stepping up though, but you ultimately were supposed to get Damian Lillard, even though it's for Tyler Hero. It's Damian Lillard, another star. Him, Bam, Jimmy, that could have been a finals run right there, but it didn't work out. Pat Riley didn't want to do it. He wants to keep paying these undrafted players and not paying his stars. So I feel like Jimmy is right. He probably feel like, I'm not. There's nothing I can do here no more. You're not giving me the help I need. I want to leave. And then plus, I don't want to give me an extension. Why should I stay here? So I feel like it is Pat Riley's fault. And Jimmy has something to do with it as well. Some of his antics is a little crazy, the hairstyles, and the whole situation last year with Boston, of their posting about beating Boston. He's not even playing. So he has something to do with it, but ultimately I think it is Pat Riley. And I'm not saying it's time for Pat Riley to retire, but it's time for him to reassess how he goes about his negotiations.
Yeah, Rush. That's a interesting thing too. Do you feel like Pat Riley maybe needs to be more flexible in how he approaches his leadership style? Because it's kind of, rumored it's heat culture and it's our way or the highway. It was rumored part of why Bron left was like little stuff like he didn't let Bron have cookies on the plane. Like Pat Riley has been stubborn in his approach and he uses I have these rings, so my way or the highway.
Yeah. I it's the first time I heard the cookies story, which is kind of crazy to me. I'm sorry. I, I can't imagine Brown leaving to Miami. Man, Pat wouldn't let me have cookies on the plane, man. I'm going, I'm going back to Cleveland. I'm sorry. It's the Scotch. It's the Scotch. But no, I don't really have an issue um with Pat and Spo setting the expectations for their culture and sticking to it, because what do we hear so much of from like fan chatter? It's like, oh, why do they let these players like do all this? They'll be at the club one night and then they'll be out for load management. You know, players are just running amok and doing whatever. So I don't really have an issue with, you know, a structure. I really don't. And it's not like Pat Riley has signed all these stars and then they haven't won any championships, right? Like Brian Wade and Bosh got two. He got one with Wade and Shaq. And you know, I think I think that gives him sort of the latitude to be able to say, hey, you coming here, you need to understand that one, you're gonna be in shape. We're not gonna take no nonsense. If you're healthy, you're expected to play. And then we have all these other guidelines by which you must abide by. I don't really have an issue with it. Now it never looks good when stars leave and they say bad things on their way out. But you know, Shaq left after he won a championship. Ron left after he won two championships. Wade left after he won three championships. Jimmy got to two finals. So, you know, and I don't know how far. I mean, how far did Jimmy get before he got to Miami? Was it like second round? I think maybe with the Wolves
Yeah,
or the Bulls.
no final
So
trips.
yeah, so I mean, let's not discount that, right? Like the whole Heat culture provided that opportunity for those players too. So it can't be all cool and you know all love while it's working, and then when you don't get your coins or your cookies, it's now Heat culture is toxic or whatever. So I don't really have an issue with it. You know, I hate that it's gone this way. I mean, Jimmy is easy to root for. You know, he's charismatic. You know, he's tough. He locks in. As Jared said, you know, ceiling raiser, floor raiser, whatever, and got them to two finals. And that's not for nothing. But um, I can't really. I don't. I don't solely blame Pat Riley for this because Pat Riley's being who he's been, but understand that that comes with all the success that he's had since he's been in Miami.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where you got to look at it where both sides played a role in this. Both sides have things that they could improve on. We've seen the reports with Jimmy's career of not being the best for a franchise and you could rub people the wrong way. Pat Riley, like he rushed said, hey, my ways worked up until this point, but he has, as of late, whether it's Pat, whether it's finances, whatever the reasons may be, they have struck out on stars and getting people to come to Miami, which typically is not something that we see as a thing. It's Miami. NBA players gladly will go to
Yeah,
Miami.
yeah. I don't think it's a lack for want though, right? Because Dame pretty clearly wanted to come. It was just a matter of working it out financially. Jimmy went there, right? Kevin Love signed there as a once he got, I think he got bought out or waived from Cleveland.
Bought out in Cleveland, yup.
So though he's, you know, he was obviously on the downside of his career. I don't think the draw of Miami has lost any of its allure. I think what we're looking at is just the reality of the new CBA and aprons and restrictions on what you can package out, what you can't package out, how much more you got to pay if you're above a certain apron. So I think we're just starting to see like the realities of that. Um, and so, you know, if you've had success signing undrafted second rounders or guys playing overseas and you're able to maximize the talent out of them, you know, maybe that's an avenue you stick with because it's so much more expensive and so much more taxing, pun intended, to go out and get these big stars because of, you know, what you're facing with the CBA. But you know, that's just my opinion.
Hey, with it, right? If Jimmy is traded, where do y'all think is the best fit for Jimmy? I personally hope that maybe they go to some type of marriage counseling and they fix it and figure it out because I think Jimmy is perfect for Heat culture and Heat culture is perfect for Jimmy. They're a beautiful marriage that kind of just hit a rough spot. But if he is traded, where do y'all think is the best option for him?
I would say
Uh,
Houston. Look, I would say Houston. I thought that would be the best fit for him. Yeah, you don't
he's
gotta score much. You can do all like the little things he likes to do. Um, score when in the fourth quarter. I thought that'd be a perfect situation for him.
That's an Ime Udoka type of player too.
yeah.
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 Ime would love Jimmy gladly.
So I'm not a big beat your toot your own horn kind of guy, but I'm gonna do exactly that. So this summer, I think there were some rumblings after Pat told Jimmy to keep his mouth shut, right? They're like, oh, Jimmy, is feeling some kind of way. You might want to trade or whatever. I said, I'll go pull the thread up if anybody is doubting me, that Jimmy would make sense for Houston because they've got probably more talent than they have minutes for. You've seen, I think, the team progress a little faster than maybe you expected, right? I think they've got plenty of runway, but I think they're what, fourth in the league, third in the Western Conference right now. One of the better defensive teams in the league. So, you could package second defensive team, yeah.
They're second
So
in the
No,
West?
they're the second seed right now in the
the
West.
second seed. Oh, okay.
Wow.
You could package a couple of young pieces, right? Like a Cam Whitmore, um, I don't know, Shepard. Like you could package some pieces, and you have to include some big salaries too, because Jimmy's making damn near 50 million. But I think it would, throw Dylan Brooks in there. It would be a good move. I do think he's an Ime type of player. But as we've seen Jimmy do, he goes to teams with young players and he lifts them. He gets the best out of them. And young teams, like I hear this argument, which I understand, right? Because people treat young teams as like precious, right? Like they're so cute and everybody loves them and they're all joyful and you don't want to mess it up. But young teams generally don't win in the NBA. Like historically, young teams don't get it done. So, and there's especially with the new CBA, there's no guarantee that you'll be able to keep whatever young nucleus you have together for, years on end. So you got to strike while the iron is hot. If you got a guy who can come in, get the best out of everybody, and really isn't like a superstar, like ball dominant type of guy, like Jimmy can be a superstar without taking 30 shots. Like that's a move I think you make, and you live with the consequences. So I just hearing Jared say that, I was like, yes, finally somebody else. And I got some flack for it, like, oh, Houston shouldn't do it. They got a young team, like blah 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 blah. Like, all right, well, like young teams don't normally win in the NBA. You might get lucky, hey, and there's always outliers, but more times than not, you're going to need some experience mixed in with whatever young talent you have to really get it done in June. So I appreciate Houston. I've also heard, I'm taking a lot of time. I'm what are they calling in Congress? You filibuster. I'm filibustering our own podcast. I really like Memphis. I think somebody reported that it's Memphis and Milwaukee right now that's most engaged with Miami. I really like Memphis. Jimmy with Ja and J to the third power. Like I like that. And assuming they keep Bane, that's a squad. Assuming they can stay healthy, because between all of them, like they missed a lot of games in the last couple of years. So assuming they stay healthy, that's the squad nobody will want to see. I guarantee you. You already don't want to see Memphis. You add Jimmy Butler to that, it's scary. So
Yeah, Houston and Memphis are 2-3 right now in the West. Both of those teams would perfectly fit for Jimmy. And when Ime got there, Ime just came off of going to the championship with Boston. That timeline got moved up. Houston knew what they was doing. If you pay that man, you bring in Ime, he not really with the rebuilding, but for so long. Ime trying to get back to the chip, trying to do winning basketball. You add Jimmy that does that. Memphis, you add Jimmy, that's giving me vibes of like the Zebo days with Tony Allen, Grindhouse. They're gonna play hard defense. It's a little different than that team because you got John Morant, who's extremely exciting. That's a team you gonna see them coming out the arena playing that Jello song, talking about whoa, like that's a team that's gonna be up and popping. Memphis gonna love that. I love to see Jimmy over in Memphis, especially in the playoff time, and had him. We watching a TNT game, singing the Jello song or talking about whoop that trick with Jimmy. Oh man, that would be epic entertainment right there. One thing you mentioned though, like you mentioned that you said it and people gave you flack. Something that's been a constant conversation on NBA threads and people in general that love the game, from commentators, from talking heads, former players. The discourse on, hey, yo, they shoot too many threes. Why are they shooting so many threes? Throw a stat out there. The 3-point this season, NBA teams are averaging 37.5 3-pointers this season, which is up from a record of 35.2 set in 2021-2022. The defending champ Celtics are leading the way, on pace to become the first team in NBA history to attempt more threes than twos. Is this the reality of where the NBA is now and a positive, or do y'all view this more as a negative and it's kind of boring just to watch all these 3-pointers going up?
Go ahead, Jared. Give him some. Give me some. Give me some spicy. I see you cooking. I see the wheels turning.
I'm not mad at it. I just don't think we should have a 4-point line because I know a lot of people lean towards that. But I'm not mad at it because I feel like for this league, it's fast paced. People want to blame Steph Curry and all that. I blame the Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion. They was the first ones who used to do this fast pace and Mike D'Antoni shoot a bunch of threes. So we've seen it coming from a long time ago. We probably just didn't realize it at the time, but I'm not mad at it. I just feel like because I think JJ Redick was saying how 3-point shooting is up, but also points to the paint is up. So everything kind of balances out. You just have to actually watch the game. People just watch highlights most of the time and don't watch a full game. When you actually watch the game, you see it's a lot of nuances with the game, a lot of new play calls to get buckets in the paint, to get 3-point shots, to get paint points, and some different schemes on defense. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, they don't play defense no more." They do play defense. It's just in a different manner, different style that we don't notice because we're not the ones who's making the plays. We're not the ones out there playing. We're not the coaches. We're not the professionals. So it looks a little different for our perspective opposed to the league's perspective. So for me, I'm fine with it. It's exciting for me because got all these high scoring games and fast up and down pace, and nobody wants to see 90s and early 2000s basketball. I was actually talking to somebody on Threads yesterday, and they were saying we had Jamal McGlure as an all-star who averaged about like 12, 13 points. And I remember back in the day when he became an all-star, I'm like, why is he an all-star? What is going on? So for us now seeing all this talent being all-stars compared to back then, we had Theo Ratliff. And I'm not trying to throw shade at these players or anything like that because they're way better than me, of course, but we don't want to see shot blocking and rebounding on top of the All-Star game. You know what I'm saying? So I like it. I'm enjoying this new league.
Hey, I know Rush is about to go. Shout out to Jamal McGlure. If you end up watching this and you want to hop on at some point, we'll gladly have you on because I know somebody in NBA threads. Tanya actually knows Jamal McGlure. So if she ends up seeing this and she shares it, Jamal, we'd love to have you on. Shout out to you being an all-star. Great career. We appreciate you. But Rush, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't know how Jared determined to fix his lips, disrespect Big Cat like that. It's just first pie. They would say no hot takes. You know what I'm saying? No spiciness, and Jared just come right out flame throwing. Big Cat catching a stray. No, that is crazy though that he made the All-Star game with those stat lines, and we didn't even think twice. Like it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. The 3-point conversation is I think is like a small part of a bigger conversation, which is like NBA ratings that has been going crazy for I think far too long, and I don't want to get into the bigger part. But the way I look at it is just the game evolving. The game has evolved in different genres throughout its entire existence, right? Like, and this is just at the point where it's a 3-point era, whatever. The like Tone said, the average attempts per team, like average attempts have gone up, I think, since like 2010. So this really shouldn't be like a point, something that we're like, oh my gosh, like teams are taking 37.5 threes. Well, if you've been paying attention, it's been going up for like more than for like the last 12 years or whatever. But it's just the league evolving. And what's crazy is people critique the misses, but field goal percentage on average is pretty flat for like the last 10, 15 years or whatever. Somebody's going to fact check me and say, no, it's actually 12 years, Rush. But anyways, so even though the 3-point attempts are going up, like Jared said, the shots at the rim, the makes at the rim are going up as well. And it's balancing out. So teams have to compensate for the fact that the opposing team is going to shoot more threes, which from an offensive standpoint is opening up actions to the rim or actions at the rim. I really think it's a breakdown in just education of the game, how the game has evolved. I guess maybe we all share some responsibility, but the bulk of it goes, onto the analysts, the journalists, media, the people who get paid to talk about the game day in and day out, instead of being nostalgic and reminiscing about the good old, 65-68 final scores. Talk about the beauty of the game and how it's evolved. And yeah, 3-point attempts are up, but look at what that is opening up from an offensive standpoint, from a league standpoint. So yeah, it's kind of annoying to me, because this is just another case of like basketball fans, for some reason, literally don't know what they want. Like, literally have a low scoring game. Oh, why am I watching this? It's trash. Like, these guys can't play, whatever. Have a high scoring game. Oh, these guys aren't playing any defense. They're shooting too many threes. What do you want? I just want to know. Like, this is the Notebook. I am channeling my inner Notebook. Tell me what you want. Like, just decide. But whatever you decide, stick with it. Because people are all over the place. If you only focus on maybe the bad things or the things you don't like about the game, you're going to miss a lot of the great stuff that's happening. Like, I put out a post that was borderline engagement bait the other day when Wemby and Jokic had crazy stat lines the first night they played. I was like, oh, this is why ratings are down. And I'll probably get some flack for it and I'll take it. But my point was, this is great basketball happening, like right here. And you crying about 3-point attempts? Like, you're missing out if you're only focusing on this one little thing that is a bit of an outlier, historically speaking, in the history of the game. So, I respect people's right to view basketball through whatever lens they view it through, because no two of us look at the game exactly the same. But man, it's just a lot of good hoop going on. I think we're getting a little too caught up in the threes. Do you know that despite the league average being 37.5, the Denver Nuggets and the New York Knicks, and a couple other teams that are above 500 and like, top 6 seeds in their respective conferences are shooting less than that? But that don't get talked about, right? Like, am I talking about it? It's just blanketed across the whole league. Like, the whole league is jacking up too many threes. But there are teams that are winning that aren't doing that.
You know what it is, though? People are mad about the bad teams shooting too many threes.
Yeah.
Like, like the Hornets, like LaMelo Ball taking. I went to a game the other day. This man took 33 shots. It didn't feel like he took 33 shots, but when I looked at the box score at the end, I'm like, he really took that many shots. It was like probably like 15 3-pointers. Like, he was like 15 from 3. So they're complaining about, like, if they miss it, that's when they complain about it. If they make it, oh, it's great basketball going on. So, like you said, they don't know what they want.
Yeah, no, there's something to be said. Like, if you're trash, like, come on, like, you gotta do something else. Like, the Hornets probably didn't have no business throwing up that many threes. But that's the game plan. That's the game plan. And also, I would say how much talent is actually on that Hornets roster to begin with. So, Melo taking that many shots is probably warranted. Excuse me.
Well, Brandon Miller was out that game as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, and a game like that, and a team like that with that roster, that sometimes I hear Gilbert Arenas talking now. I hear him in the background saying, my 33 shot is the best shot based off of my teammates. That's the type of situation that's going on over in Charlotte. If they shoot 80 shots in a game, as I'm the coach, or if I'm the fan of Charlotte, out of those 80 shots, I need 45, 50 of them to be between LaMelo and Brandon Miller. I don't want certain players, I ain't going to name nobody's name, but there's certain players on that roster. You shouldn't have more than 5 attempts. Learn to do something else. Rebound, play defense, take a charge, do something like that. Those situations, the talent ain't there. So he's forced to take 38 shots. And those 38 shots, sad to say, is probably the best shots that they could have got, honestly.
Yeah. And one more thing, like, people say, oh, if there's supposed to be parity in the league, then how come you have teams that are trash? Like, there's always going to be trash teams in the league. Like, that's just a given. In any league, you have bad teams. You don't want to see bad teams bad historically, right? Like, over the course of how many seasons. Like, I think that's something the league needs to figure out. I think they've done some of that with, like, the different draft rules. We've probably got some expansion coming up within the next 5 years. So the league should be even more balanced. But there's always going to be teams that aren't good or as good as the best teams in the league. But go look at the Western Conference. Tell me how many teams have a winning record or at 500 or within like 2 games of 500. Like, there's good hoop in the league. Like, there is parity in this league, and that's a good thing. The problem is people don't know what they want. So I'll die on that. I'll die on that hill.
DMX said it too. What they want from DMX said it, like, what y'all want? That's Adam Silver. Adam Silver, I just need him one day to come in the press conference. They complaining about ratings. They complaining about too many threes. And he just need to pull it out. He can't say that word, obviously, but he could edit it. What y'all want from a commissioner? Yeah. He got to say something along those lines, like, to your point. People don't know what they want when it comes to that. And like you mentioned, we was spoiled seeing Wemby and Jokic back to back, home and a home, putting up those historic numbers. They said that was the first time that we've seen a player attempt 35 plus attempts back-to-back games since Kobe Bryant. That's what Jokic did. First time that we saw 2 players have those type of stats ever since Giannis and Embiid did it. Really great basketball. We're seeing, because of the 3-point shot, it's a lot of versatility coming on. It's versatile players all over, and that's how you're going to have to stay in this league. They have to be versatile. Players like Wemby. That's an easy name to throw out there, but I'll start with Wemby. Wemby is one of the most versatile players in regards of, y'all complain Wemby shoots too many threes, but he does a lot of other things that affects the game, that impacts winning. The man is probably going to lead the league for the next 10, 15 years in blocks until he retires. The blocks, the steals, the ability to be able to handle the rock at 7'12", like, versatile. When we think about how versatile the players are in today's NBA, who are some of the players that come to the mind for y'all? Like, I'll throw another one out there and y'all can take the floor. Josh Hart. I love me some Josh Hart. I think it was that Christmas Day game. He won that game for them. The 2 rebounds at the end of the game. That's the tough that you need. Josh Hart ain't going to average 30, but he's versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife. You could use him in multiple ways. So he's going to always have a job. Always going to have a job. In this NBA, though, today's NBA, who comes to mind for y'all as like some of the most versatile players?
I got one who's on the uprise right now. Jalen Johnson from the Hawks. He's starting to become one of the most versatile players in the league. I'll give you his stats. 19.8 points per game, 5.3 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.1 blocks, 10.1 rebounds, and he's shooting about 33% from 3. Sounds like a nice versatile stat line to me. And he's playing power forward. He's probably going to get most improved player this year. So that's one player I think he might be an all-star. I'm going to put my ballot in for him as an all-star this year.
I love Jalen Johnson's game and what we've seen. I saw it last year. He finished off the year. he got injured, but when he was playing last year, we saw the flashes. Him and Trae Young, how good and how effective he is, and he put it all together. We don't know what the ceiling is with Jalen Johnson, and then you teamed up with Trae Young. Atlanta got a little something going there, right there. That little two-headed monster. They got to figure some other stuff out to, get back to winning ways. But
Hey,
Jalen
DeAndre Hunter's
Johnson,
playing that shit too.
who?
DeAndre Hunter on the Hawks. Yeah, he's coming off the bench, averaging like 20. I was surprised to see that stat the other day. I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was hurt all season.
Nah, for real. That's another versatile player when you think about it too. DeAndre Hunter, very versatile. When you look at that team in general, some versatile players. Even we rave about them in NBA threads. Dyson Daniels,
Oh, yeah. Great dragon
versatile.
piece.
I just needed the opportunity, coach. Versatile.
Mhm.
Rush, who comes to mind for you? Some of the most versatile players in the NBA right now.
I was kind of lazy with this homework assignment, so I picked but we have this thing, right, where great players, we get so accustomed to seeing them do great things that it's like, oh well, yeah, they're supposed to do that. It's really freaking hard to perform night in and night out, like at this level. It's like Brian Scalabrine told some bums at the gym, years ago, like, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. Like the NBA is truly like the top 2% of basketball players in the world, maybe even 1%. But with that being said, because I had to qualify my cherry picking, um, I'm going with Giannis and Jokic because those two personify uh versatile to me. Like they do a little bit of everything at the highest level, except for Giannis, 3-point shooting, like in free throw shooting. But when you talk about impacting the game in different ways, both sides of the floor, offensively at three levels, we talk about gravity. Like it's just hard to find two guys who do it better. And I'm gonna give a shout out to NBA Thread's very own Doc Thompson, who did a little montage with Giannis. I think it was last week. Called out some things. I think for Giannis's career, he was shooting like 36% from 10 to 16 feet, and this year it's up to like 54%, which is like crazy. Like that leap, it's literally almost 20 points, I think. So, like it's just wild. Like he continues to get better, which makes him even more dangerous from an offensive standpoint, and which allows him to be even more versatile when the doubles are coming because he's killing it from mid range and he can find cutters or open corner threes. And then of course Jokic is going to do it from three levels, and we know what he does, but just having another like stratospheric statistical year. I like Shea for the MVP, but I can't get mad if you give it to Jokic because what he's doing, like as a center, I believe he's averaging a triple double, right?
Yes, sir.
He's just. I mean, if you don't round up, he's a shade under 10 assists per game, but he's at 9.7. So it's just crazy. Like it's just crazy. Like people want to whine about ratings and like that's just you got 6'10", 270 pounds, can't jump over envelope, averaging literally 31, 13, and 9.7, shooting 55, 47, 80. It's just crazy to me. I'm sorry. I'm in awe.
Those two, like you said, every single night to come in and come out and perform every single night. And we've heard the stories of former NBA players speaking on other players that, they didn't put the work in. They got the check. They was comfortable. They stopped coming in. They stopped doing what they needed to do. We've seen people mention like Tobias Harris. I'm going to get my 18 to 20 and I'm checked out. I'm good. And I'm going to get my check and do what I got to do. Jokic and Giannis to actually be still getting better. That's the thing that's kind of scary. And that's kind of where you have to appreciate what we're watching. They are actually getting better. Jarrett with the church finger.
Jokic, I didn't realize this. Jokic is leading the league in free throw throws. That's crazy. That is crazy.
You
There
you
you
would
go.
think these two players specifically, they can't get any better. They look,
That
if they repeat what
is
they repeat every single year, that's dope. But they're getting better. And we really have to. Those two, KD, you talk about players like Steph, Bron, appreciate what we are watching. It is great basketball from a lot of players, from a lot of teams. We don't live in the 1960s where you had 3 or 4 players that was actually good, where you had scores of 45 to fit. Like, no, we are watching some of the most talented, skilled players ever in NBA history
Right.
performing every single night. Appreciate it. It ain't gonna be here forever, for real, for real. So that's all facts. We're gonna end off with letting y'all know some big games coming up this week. Now, we're not gonna tell y'all every single game, but we will inform you of some of the games that's coming up across all platforms of basketball. Number 4, USC, as we mentioned, 18-1, no, 14-1, going against number 8, Maryland on Wednesday. They are 14-0. Somebody on this screen will be at that game, covering the game, talking to the Maryland players, and talking to Juju, Lindsey Gottlieb, Kennedy, yes, Jarrett. So y'all gonna get that back to back NBA threads. Talk about appreciation. Y'all gonna get to see the press conference with Juju, USC, and Maryland, because I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a way better game than that 50 piece that they put on Rutgers. But yeah, you're gonna see way better game and more great content coming from that game. Number 1, Tennessee men's basketball 14-0 will be going against Florida at number 8 seed. They will be seeing them this week. Also, probably the biggest NBA game this week, the Thunder 30-5 will be going against the Cleveland Cavaliers 31-4. The best part about that, both teams will be coming off of 2 days of rest. So we should see high optimum, great basketball. We get to see possibly a finals matchup coming up. These were the first 2 teams that actually hit 30 wins. Very intrigued to see how this one goes. This is the Corner 3 podcast. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Subscribe, like, share, just so y'all know. If you a basketball junkie, this is the podcast for you. Basketball junkies, y'all gonna love this podcast. We out.